Hey everyone, Mark the Movie Man here. Welcome to the final cut. And yes, it's finally here, the sequel that no one asked for, but we got anyway, and it's The Huntsman, Winter's War. Yes, the prequel and sequel to Snow White and the Huntsman. This one focuses solely on Eric, the Huntsman, that we got to meet in the first film. Well, here we get to see his backstory. We get to learn about his character, how he was taken as a child and forced to be raised as a soldier in Queen Freya, the Ice Queen's army, as one of her elite soldiers. Along the way, he meets Sarah, who is also an elite soldier, and the two fall in love, but that's forbidden, so they got to keep their love hidden from Queen Freya because she has outlawed all love for some very dark reasons. Now we jump ahead many years later, events after the Snow White and the Huntsman film, and we see our Huntsman free and in the woods, and he is tasked once again to go get the magic mirror and take it to Sanctuary. See, it's gone disappearing while it was being transported there, and he's got to go find it and finish the route because that mirror is just too evil to be around anybody. And so he has to work to try to get that mirror before the Ice Queen gets her hands on it and takes over all the land. That's what the actual story is. If you check the synopsis in IMDb, they make it sound like there's a warring faction between sisters, and there's a little bit of a spoiler alert that really doesn't come up throughout most of the film. It is mostly focused on Freya, on the Huntsman, and his love, Sarah, played by Jessica Chastain. Now, there's some good chemistry between them. Jessica Chastain plays a very strong female character, which I really liked. In fact, the majority of the characters in this film are strong female characters, and if they do have a bit of a weakness, there's an explanation to why. So I really liked the tone of it and the direction they took, how the female characters were actually in the forefront, though the film is called The Huntsman. It's actually, even the dwarves, we get introduced to some female dwarf characters, and they're stronger than the male dwarf characters. So I liked that idea and that concept and where the direction they took with it. Now, is this film as horrible as the tomatoes and everybody would say? No. I didn't think so. I mean, I come from a generation where we had Willow and Krull and a slew of fantasy films that were various levels of good to bad, and many of them got wide release. And this one was kind of in the vein of Willow. It's not a horrible film. It was entertained. In fact, me and the two other people in the theater laughed out loud quite a bit, mainly because Nick Frost was very, very funny in here as Nyan the dwarf. And they gave his character something to do along with the Griff character played by Rob Brydon, but those two actually were weaker characters than the Miss Broman character played by Sheridan Smith and Doreen played by Alexandra Roach. Though Alexandra Roach and Nick Frost get to have a few touching scenes in here as well. Speaking of touching, there is some beefcake in here as well for those of you interested in Chris Hemsworth's chest or Jessica Chastain wearing next to nothing. Now, what I was hoping to see and what we did get though was Charlize Theron back as Ravina. I loved her in the first one, just loved her over the top evil queen, and here she comes back in full form, full evilness, and I just loved it. I love the outrageousness of this film, the chances it took and the places it went. Is it great? If you go into this thinking you're getting in a serious fantasy film, then no, you're going to be drastically disappointed. CG is decent to fair, but I was entertained. It was an interesting group of characters, and it was just a fun adventure story. We've seen this type of story before that they get in here, and it is a bit predictable. But the characters are what interest me, and especially the scenes between Emily Blunt, who plays the Ice Queen, and Charlize Theron, who plays the Evil Queen. Their scenes in particular actually had some weight, had some real gusto to them, and I really enjoyed the scenes when these two sisters characters were together. I loved that chemistry between them, or lack of chemistry, if you will, the evil chemistry between these two sisters. I really enjoyed that. So, is it really great? No. Is it worth the price of an early show? $5 Tuesday, or maybe a 7 o'clock, a $7 show at an early matinee price. You may want to wait for rental if you weren't a fan of the first one. If you are a fan of the first one, you will probably enjoy this, even though it is sans case stew. But again, I'm not sure what people expected going into this film. I had no expectations. I expected it to be horrible, and I was at least mildly entertained and taken back to those cheesy 80s fantasy films of old. So check it out if you will. If you have seen The Huntsman, please leave your comments down below. I give it 3 stubs. That's just my personal opinion. It may not be for everyone, but again, just keep your expectations low, escape and enjoy, if nothing else, the entertaining scenes with Nick Frost. That'll about do it for us here at The Final Cut. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate every single one of my supporters and subscribers out there. And until next time, keep that ticket stub.